Ambition, and I'm Kakuli, your guide and your teacher. I think by now most of you have subscribed my channel, but if you have not done it, please do so, because believe me, it will be immensely helpful for you not only today but in the future as well. Why? Because I am uploading the chapters of class 11th and 12th definitely, but along with those I am also uploading some videos that will enhance your vocabulary skills, help you to speak correct, flawless English and write as well. And if you're aspiring for some competitive exams in your near future, these videos will be very helpful to you. So please subscribe my channel and share it with your friends and family as well. Now today we are doing the third chapter of Flamingo called Deep Water by William Douglas. This is a chapter that talks of great determination and willpower. And who is the author? William Douglas was a very eminent person. Why? Not only as an author, but he was also an eminent lawyer. And he was the longest serving justice in the court of USA. And he was also a friend and associate of the then president of USA, Franklin Roosevelt. So we can understand that he was a man of great stature and height. And this chapter that we have is actually not a fiction. That means ये कोई ऐसे मनगढ़ंत कहानी नहीं है. This is one of an incident that has happened with the author, and he wishes to share that with us. And why he wants to share that experience with us? Because he wants to convey a very important message through this story or through this experience of his. And what is that message? It is actually the theme of this story as well. What is it? It says that with strong determination and willpower and courage, you can conquer anything that you want to achieve in life. You can conquer any fear that you have in your mind. As the story begins, the author tells us that when he was 10 or 11 years of age, he decided to go and learn swimming. And he took admission in YMCA swimming pool. What is YMCA? It's a worldwide organization called Young Men's Christian Association. He had one more option. There was a river called Yakima River, but he did not want to learn swimming in that river because it was a dangerous river. There is a word treacherous used in the book that meant dangerous, and his mother was very afraid of that river, and she kept on reminding the author of many drowning incidents that had already taken place in that river. So the author joined the YMCA swimming pool, which was definitely a better and a safer option. And there the swimming pool was very safe. एक side में depth था 2 feet, दूसरे side पे the depth of the swimming pool was 9 feet, and the drop was very gradual, जैसे normal swimming pool में हुआ करता है. So he started learning swimming over there. Now, as he went initially, shuru mein, as he started to learn swimming, an old childhood fear came up in his mind. Now, this can be again a very important 2-marker question, children. Which childhood fear? As he started swimming, कौन से ऐसे पुराने याददाश्त थे जो उनके मन में बार-बार आने लगे? Now, this is an important question. When he was 3 or 4 years old, his father had taken him to California Sea Beach. And he was a small boy, as we can understand. 3-4 साल का छोटा सा लड़का था. वहां पे क्या हुआ था? The waves were so huge. They, swept him under that, and he was overpowered by the waves. the surf of the sea beach. Surf also means the wave only. Okay, and he was restless, and his, he could not breathe, and that experience had created in his mind an aversion for water. This word aversion is also a word from your book. It means dislike. Okay, so as he went to the swimming pool, YMCA swimming pool, वो कैलिफोर्निया बीच वाला जो मेमोरी था वो ऑथर के मन में बार बार आ रहा था, और इन द इनिशियल स्टेज he was a little afraid of swimming. But gradually he started becoming more confident, and that childhood fear was gradually reducing or dispelled from his mind. And he was learning by aping the others. Aping means by copying the others. अब एक दिन क्या हुआ, when he was gradually gaining confidence of swimming and that fear of water was gradually reducing, one day he went to the swimming pool and he maybe must have gone a little early, तो बाकी कोई नहीं था, he was alone. So he was not confident enough to go and start swimming on his own. So he was waiting कि बाकी बच्चे भी आ जाए तो then I will go and start swimming. In the meantime, a big boy, an adult boy of 18, 19 came, and he had a well-built body. He was a muscular boy. He was a little, prankster, bully kind of a boy. वो उसने आके क्या किया? He made fun of him. He said, "Oh, skinny," because the author was a little lean and thin. So he picked him up. The boy picked the author up, and he, just to tease him, to make fun of him, as a prank, he threw him into the water, and that too at the deeper side of the swimming pool. Now you can understand the condition of the small boy. He was hardly 10 or 11 years of age, and he had not learned swimming enough to save himself. He has just started to learn swimming, and he was thrown into the deeper end of the swimming pool. The author then says that as he was thrown into the swimming pool, he was terrified. Yet he says also that though I was frightened, but I was not frightened out of my wit. Very important line. What does it mean? That ऐसा नहीं है कि he could not think. Okay, he could still think how to save himself, and he made a nice plan. What was his plan? He thought that as he would reach the bottom of the swimming pool, he would kick the bottom of the swimming pool hard, and he would try to jump up, spring up to the surface of the swimming pool. Then he would swim and he would reach the edges and save himself. पर क्या ऐसा एक्चुअली में हुआ? नहीं हो पाया, because he was not a trained swimmer. He could not do it so well because he lost his breath. He started suffocating, and by the time he reached the surface, the bottom of the swimming pool, he was out of his breath. But still, he made an attempt. He summoned all courage and strength, and he tried to spring up to the surface of the swimming pool. But he could not succeed completely. थोड़ा सा तो वो आया ऊपर तक, but he could not materialize his plan because his limbs, his hands, his legs seemed to be paralyzed. They could not swim because actually he was out of his breath. Okay, his lungs was throbbing with pain, his head was aching, and he was in a pathetic situation. Moreover, he was very, very afraid, he was terrified, and the fear paralyzed him completely, which was very, very normal. But in spite of that, we see the author made 3 attempts. Okay, but none of those attempts were, fruitful, were successful. Okay, once he was thrown into the swimming pool, he tried to come up. He came to a certain extent, but he was not successful according to his plan. Again, he drowned for the 2nd time. Then again, he tried to come up. He came up also to a certain extent, but again he drowned. And this experience, children, this incident is very, very important for your long question. We have to be ready with this, and the question will come, what was the misadventure that happened with William Douglas in the YMCA swimming pool? What were his reactions? What were his plans to save himself? Was he successful? So ये जो पार्ट है ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, और बहुत सारे टर्म्स है आपके बुक में जो आपको याद रखना है, विच आई हैव ऑलरेडी टोल्ड यू, बट यू प्लीज रिमेंबर that my lungs ached, my head throbbed, I was getting dizzy, I was suffocating, sheer stark terror seized me. These are the lines or the phrases you please underline in your books, and you have to use them in your answers to get good marks. Okay, I was shrieking underwater. Shrieking means to shout. He was shouting, but who will listen to his shout even if he's shouting underwater? And I was paralyzed with fear underwater. तो ये जो terms हैं ये आपको use करना है when you are writing this answer. I shook and I trembled. वो घबरा गया बिल्कुल. And he was trembling. He was shivering with fear. So इसके बाद finally when he drowned for the third time, then all his energy was exhausted. He could not continue with his efforts to save himself to swim. फिर क्या हुआ? He lost his consciousness. He started becoming unconscious. The poet says over here, I crossed to oblivion and the curtain of my life fell. Important question, important line. I crossed on to oblivion. What is the meaning of the word oblivion? Means forgetfulness. Forgetfulness, why? क्योंकि he was becoming unconscious. तो वो धीरे धीरे he was forgetting what was happening, and it was a near death experience for him. Why? Because if somebody would have not saved him, he would have drowned and he would have died, which he had almost died. He was at the verge of death. That's why it is said, and the curtain of my life fell. वो तो किसी ने thank God देख लिया, बचा लिया, नहीं तो he would have drowned and he would have died. Next, when he regained his consciousness, he saw that he was lying on the side of the swimming pool and he was puking water. He had swallowed a lot of water, because that is an obvious thing. If somebody is getting drowned, he will swallow water. And so he was lying on the side of the swimming pool and somebody had saved him, and that boy, that senseless boy who had thrown him into that swimming pool, was also standing there, and he was also very embarrassed because he did not realize that this boy did not know swimming at all. Next, we come to a very important part, that what were the effects of this drowning? The effects were disastrous. Why? Because it had two effects. एक तो immediate effects, कुछ दिनों तक क्या हुआ, उसके बाद the long term consequences, both are very, very important. Let us see what were the immediate effects. The author says that several hours later, when I walked back home, he was very, very weak and he was very, very nervous. Okay, and that night he couldn't sleep, he couldn't eat, and for days that fear would constantly be haunting in his heart. Okay, constantly he was very, very nervous, and that fear would be there in his mind, hovering in his mind. Slightest exertion would upset me, making me wobbly in the knees. Wobbly in the knees मतलब tremble करना, पैर ऐसे कांपते थे सोचकर ही. And sick to my stomach, he would feel very, very nervous and upset. But next, what happened is more important. He left swimming forever. He never went to that YMCA swimming pool again. And even years passed. but that fear had a deep rooted impact, profound impact in his life. सालों बाद भी वो जो डर उनके मन में इतना ज्यादा बैठ गया था कि वो उनसे बाहर आ ही नहीं पाए. Now see what the author says, that as he grew up, he would love to go to some, water expeditions. If not swimming, कभी फिशिंग तो कभी बोटिंग, कभी कैनोइंग, कभी सिंपल बेदिंग इन द स्प्रिंग्स एंड द कैस्केड्स, जो हम लोग सब करना चाहते हैं. But the author says whenever he would go near any water body, what would happen? Very important over here, page 27. The terror that had seized me, seize matlab capture karna, pakarna. So the terror, we know fear, that had seized me in the swimming pool would come back, and it would take possession of me completely. He would be overpowered by that terror, wahi terror swimming pool wala. My legs would become paralyzed. We understand paralyzed ho jane ka matlab legs would not move at all, and icy horror would grab my heart. His mind would be filled with fear, horror and terror, and he would not be able to move, also forget about doing these expeditions. So the author says over here in the next page that fear ruined my life. Ruined का मतलब पूरा खत्म कर देना, खराब कर देना, बर्बाद कर देना. It destroyed my fishing trips. He could not go for any water activity, whether it is fishing or canoeing or boating or swimming. So that fear of his crippled his life, handicapped him, and he could not go for any other leisurely activities related to water. Now next, the author said that one fine morning he decided that no, enough is enough. I have to conquer this fear that is destroying my life. So one October, he hired an instructor, a swimming coach, who would teach him how to swim. And this experience is something amazing. We get to see what the author did. His willpower, his courage, his perseverance is worth emulating over here. Let's see what he did. He was tied to a pulley. पुली क्या होता है? आप लोगों ने देखा होगा या पढ़ा होगा, मूवीज में तो देखा ही होगा, that in the villages we have the well, ना, जहां से हम पानी निकालते हैं, तो ऊपर जो होता है वो पुली होता है. पुली से one rope goes into the well carrying the bucket. The other side of the rope is held by the person जो पानी निकाल रहा है वो well से. So exactly same thing you keep in your mind and you try to understand the situation. The author was tied to a pulley that was hung to an overhead cable. अगर ये swimming pool है, ऊपर there was a cable, उसमें एक पुली दिया हुआ था. एक side of the rope that went through the pulley, the author was tied to it in his waist. The other end of the rope was in the hand of the instructor. क्यों ऐसे पुली और ये रोप? To give the author a little confidence and courage. अभी हमने देखा कि he was very afraid. The moment he went near water, he would be paralyzed. Icy horror would grab his heart. So to give him a little confidence, he was tied to that rope, and the other side of the rope was held by the instructor. This way he learned swimming. And how many months did it take? 6 months. He would cross from one side of the pool to the other with the help of that rope. Number 2, what happened? Next, the instructor taught him how to inhale and exhale, that is to breathe, which we all know is very important. If you are a swimmer, you should know how to breathe. वो आपका capacity भी बढ़ाना पड़ता है, तो he was taught that. Number 3, he was taught to, kick in the water, that is the strokes that he had to take. So the third thing, he was brought near the edge of the swimming pool and he was taught how to kick. Now the author says, piece by piece, he built a swimmer in me, which is again a very, very important question for your examination, page 28. Thus, piece by piece, he built a swimmer. Very important question. क्यों piece by piece, धीरे धीरे एक एक करके. Then finally the instructor said, I am done. Now you start swimming. Now the author started swimming in that swimming pool without that pulley. But he was still not completely confident. The instructor had gone क्योंकि उनका काम हो गया था, उन्होंने सिखा दिया था. Now it was the duty of the author to practice. Then he started practicing alone in that swimming pool for 3-4 months. He's practiced and practiced. He swam and swam across that swimming pool. But still, he says that terror came back to his mind in small pieces, in small quantity. It came back. He said that the tiny vestige means piece, small piece of that terror would come back. But the author was no more afraid very much, but little bit he was, and he tried to, shoo it away. That no, I am not afraid of you, you go away, and he started swimming. But फिर भी he was not completely satisfied. Then what did he do next? He now started swimming in the natural lakes, which is, we all know, definitely more difficult and dangerous, because swimming pool we know यहाँ 2 feet है, यहाँ 9 feet है, और वहीं से वहीं we know the depth, we know the length and breadth. But so he wanted to challenge himself, he wanted to challenge his limits, and he did not want even a smallest piece of that fear to be there in his mind. So now he goes to different places, this lake, that lake, huge lakes, and he started swimming and swimming. Okay, then he says finally one day he overpowered that fear completely, and then he said that I was liberated from that fear. I had conquered my fear of water. Okay, so he was finally successful. Now we come to the third part of this chapter. Why third part? क्यों? First part क्या था? वो misadventure था. That was the first part, how he was drowned. Number 2, what did he do to conquer his fear? जो अभी अभी हमने किया. ये third part क्या है? What lesson does he want to give us? What moral does he want to give or convey to the readers? Why is he sharing all these things? Now he says that this is again very, very important. He says that there is terror only in the fear of death. And as Roosevelt, I told you, President of America, his close friend and associate, he had said, all we have to fear is fear itself. Very, very important line, children. Very important 5-marker question. So all we have to fear, हमको किस चीज से डरना है? और किसी चीज से नहीं डरना है, सिर्फ डर से डरना है. So डरना नहीं है. जिस चीज से भी हमको डर लगता है, we have to show courage, we have to face it, we have to brave it, we have to be determined and courageous with strong willpower, and it is not impossible to overpower, to conquer that fear. Kyunki we have seen the author had a deep rooted fear. It can be a phobia, we can say, for water. So he says, if I can conquer it, why can't you conquer? So this is the moral, the lesson that we learn from this chapter, and this is the reason that the author shares this experience. क्योंकि ये भी एक question है, book में ही है, third question. Why does Douglas, as an adult, recount a childhood experience of his terror? वो क्यों ये experience हमसे share कर रहे हैं? इसीलिए वो हमको ये बताना चाह रहा है कि कोई सा भी डर हो, वो कितना गहरा क्यों ना हो, इतना कितना भी deep rooted क्यों ना हो, if you have courage and willpower, you can overcome that fear the way he did. Okay, so this is the chapter. With this, I come to the end of this chapter. Now let's discuss the important questions, as you know I always do. The first question, and very important question, is definitely the title of the story, Deep Water. Now deep water has a symbolic metaphorical meaning also. Deep water means in deep trouble also. I can say that I am in deep water. That means I am in deep trouble. So deep water here means two things. First of all, deep trouble, and number two, as we can understand, the main fear, the main trouble in the author's life was deep water, because he had a near-death experience in deep water. So we have to say both these things when we are explaining the title. We have to say how the author was thrown into the swimming pool, how in spite of his best efforts he could not save himself. Finally, he was rescued by somebody. It had a deep impact in his life, and how finally with willpower and determination he overcame that fear. Basically, it is more or less the summary of the story that we have to tell if the title and the significance of the title is asked over here. Question number 2. The California sea beach experience. Why did the author have an aversion for water? What was his experience in the California sea beach? What happened when he went to California sea beach at the age of 3 or 4? So various ways में this question can be framed, but basically वो California sea beach जो incident है वो हमको याद रखना है. Number 3, as we can understand, the one of the most important questions, the misadventure that took place in the YMCA swimming pool. What was the misadventure? How did he drown? What were his feelings when he was getting drowned? How did he try to save himself? Was he successful or not? तो ये वाला जो part है, portion है, we have to remember very well. And as I had pointed out that time, कुछ phrases मैंने underline करवाया था आपसे, so that you have to use in your answers. Next question is, as I told you, very important question. How did he conquer the fear of water? इसमें हमको 3 चीजें बतानी है. क्या क्या 3 चीजें? Number 1, how he appointed the instructor and how the instructor taught him. Number 2, even after the instructor was finished, how he practiced swimming in the swimming pool. Number 3, even after the swimming pool he was not completely satisfied. Then he tried swimming in the natural lakes, in the deepest lakes possible, and finally he conquered the fear of water. Next question is the moral, the lesson, that all we have to fear is fear itself. Why we have to do that, and how do we conquer the fear with willpower, perseverance and courage. उसमें भी आपको क्या बताना है? You have to say how the author finally conquered his fear of water. Okay, so these are the very very important questions. Believe me children, if you do these questions that I have told you now, इससे अलग तो कोई question आ ही नहीं सकता long questions में. And for MCQs also I have done the chapter with great detail. So I hope you have enjoyed the chapter, you have watched my video, and again I'm telling you, subscribe my channel and share it with all your friends and relatives. Thank you and happy learning.